Well, this is something that I actually want to give Bree some credit for. So Bree, my wife, when we first got together many, many, many years ago, she loved like changing her routine. And you and I come from a background where it's like, this is routine. This is like what we do. There's no change. Don't deviate. Don't even look over there. Like it's not worth it. And it took me
Yep.
a really long time to get into this, but I will say the last 5 years, my life has been nothing but change. And I was thinking about different scenarios. One, like corporate environments, two, entrepreneurship, and then three, personal life. And there's always change happening to some degree. But I feel like when a person is used to adopting change and intentionally goes out and seeks change in their own routine, which doesn't have to be anything big, we'll talk about that in a second, they are much more able to handle stress, anxiety, obviously changes in certain situations, things that come at them. And so there is something to be said about purposely changing up a lot of your routine, right? So I wanted just to explore that a little bit more because I think there's a lot of considerations that people may not think about when it comes to change and altering just general routines. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, well, I have lots of thoughts as usual. I think part of the challenge for people, I mean, even people that have been in personal development for a long time, right? There's this, you build better habits, you build consistency in your daily life, you have your morning routine and your bedtime routine. And so I think just inherent in all the content that's put out, or a lot of it, not all of it, it's routine is how you actually maximize output.
Yeah.
But you're right, there is an element where you get so into a routine that you become so rigid that you can't adapt and be flexible, and you
Yeah.
start to actually lose efficiency. And I think that's what we're talking about today, is knowing when you've hit a point of redundancy in your life, doing the same thing over and over and over, and you're actually limiting your growth because your body is only able to work within, let's say, a confined box of schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And like an example, I like morning routines. So I'll just start by saying that. I think that there is power in like waking your body up, waking your mind up, but I've realized like I've learned to function on very little sleep. It's not a great thing. I'm not bragging about it, but if I get extra sleep in the morning, that's wonderful. But if my kids come get me up at 5 o'clock or 5:30, it's not completely throwing off my morning like it used
Yeah.
to. And this can be, and what we're talking about is just little changes too. Like you're actively thinking about ways to change things up. So, as an example, when I drive the kids to daycare, I try to just find a different street to go down, right? I mean, it's something as simple as that. Or, maybe we're going to put something else in our morning coffee, or instead of, repeatedly going to the gym and doing the same thing, you're going to switch it up. You're going to change your routine a little bit in the gym because your body's going to react in different ways. And I think the active intention of switching things up and being actively aware of like where you can introduce change is just as effective, if not more effective from a perspective standpoint than just simply letting change happen in your own personal life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really easy, to your point about going always down the same road. Your brain just goes on autopilot, and I'm sure, you can relate. Hopefully, I'm not the only one that you drive to somewhere and you're like, "Holy crap, I don't even remember how I got here," because
Yeah.
you just have completely shut out anything that's going around. What I'll say on the opportunity to introduce change is, I found it can't just be a one and done, because it's easy to go, tomorrow I'm going to do something different at the gym, and then I go back to whatever it was I'm doing. It's when I hit that point, for example, in our upcoming challenge about going to bed, a little bit earlier at a consistent time. It's not the fact that I need to do that one time. It's the fact that I have to commit to it for a 7-day period that makes me go, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do that," because that actually disrupts my routine for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the inflection point that people need to get to, is it's not a one time, it's a maybe a shorter period of time, but it's enough to disrupt your subconscious into being more conscious in whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that example. And I'm glad you brought up the challenge piece because that's actually the point of these smaller challenges that we're
Yeah.
doing. We've had our 100-day, 10,000 step challenge, which is really awesome. That shows discipline, that shows accountability. There's people that will do that, but then that can get too long for some people. So these smaller changes are meant for people to say, hey, I know I kind of have this bad habit. Let's just do it for 7 days. Hopefully that's enough for the routine to shift for somebody to say, hey, this wasn't as bad as I really thought. I'm
Yeah.
just going to get started, so that every single month now people are looking for ways that they can go in and disrupt their own cycle and not be weary of change, but actually embrace it and look for things that it actually helps amplify or improve in their own personal life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that you're creating a whole new habit within that short challenge time frame. It's getting you over the hump to say, this is disrupting. It feels a little uncomfortable. And hey, wait, I've actually started to notice something good about whatever that change is. Yes, this is something I want to explore more. And then you intentionally choose to make that a habit. Or maybe not. Maybe it's this actually wasn't, where I needed to shift my energy. I'm going to try something else.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And I love the word comfort there. As you know, it's in my signature. I stole it from Andy Priscilla, fully admit it. But just the quote, there is no growth in the comfort zone. And that's the whole point, right? A lot of people aren't going to go out and just start cold plunging every single day. That's not comfortable. But, if you can turn the temperature down in your shower for 30 seconds or even 15 seconds just to wake yourself up a little bit, something that's a little bit different, it helps you get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's where these smaller changes come in. That's where intentionally looking for alternatives in your routine, switching things up a bit. And I love when people really embrace the internet guru mindset, where it's like, well, Steve Jobs only had one outfit that he picked out because he didn't want to spend the mind share on changing anything but blue jeans and a black turtleneck. And it's like, but you're not Steve Jobs, right? You're working a 9 to 5, right? You're coaching football, whatever it is. Like, you're not in that same environment. So don't look for ways that you think you're going to optimize yourself to save energy when you're really not even in a spot that you're able to adapt to any sort of change in your real life anyways. And so to me, it's always like taking the person where they're at and
Yeah.
looking to say, what can I improve from a change in routine, my neural pathways, how I'm connecting dots, bringing new strategy in, looking for efficiencies, building new relationships. There's a lot that comes out of just doing certain things slightly differently.
Yeah. And one other thing that I'd like to throw in terms of challenging yourself, because a lot of people think it has to be something like, you know, something big or something that disrupts routine um, in a major way. And you can also do little things like, for 3 days this week, I'm going to get up, darn it, and I'm going to shower and I'm going to dress, a little bit nicer than I normally do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lay out my clothes the night before.
Yeah.
And that will change your mindset. And so it doesn't have to be something drastically different in your routine. It could just be, what is something that makes me show up just a little bit differently or portray a different level of confidence or, make me maybe more likely to share an idea at a meeting per se. So allowing people to be creative too in terms of what they mean or what they're trying to do to disrupt their routine.
100%. And I'd rather have people, I want people to do our challenge, but I would rather have people do something that fits them and benefits them as they change a routine. But then the other part is share that, because you never know how many people are watching you, specifically on social media, and listening for the impact that it's actually made. And we see this from time to time, specifically on social media, where somebody reaches out that you haven't heard from in like 5 years, and they're like, hey, I just saw you did this over here, and I did that 5 years ago, or I'm really interested in the effects that it had. And so being able to share what your experience is, what happened when you really embraced that change, not only impacts other people, but it helps you get things out of your mind and then speak it into the physical world. And that in itself will help amplify what you're seeing and that effect coming out of that change.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And I know we've talked about it many times and I'll continue to say it over and over, but you don't know who's watching. And it might take them 2 years to even acknowledge that they've seen something. But whatever you're putting out there and however you're leading by example, just know that people are watching and learning from you.
Mhm.
So these seemingly little things that you are doing to disrupt your routine, to push yourself out of your comfort, is actually inspiring someone else to think about how they can do the same in their own life.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think that's great. What we want is people to get into these challenges with us every single month. And so, sign up on our form so you can start with us. If it's, not the set your bedtime this time for May 2025, then, hit us on the next challenge or do your own and then share that experiences. We really want you to go out and start making some changes in your own life and get comfortable with being uncomfortable, just a few steps down the line, because that in itself, once you really embrace that feeling, will allow you to start other things much more quickly because you will know, hey, this is going to be uncomfortable for a short period of time. And when it comes to anything new in your life, that's going to have compounding impacts later on, further down the line for your own personal journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was great seeing you. Can't wait to get started on this challenge, and
You too.
we'll see you in a couple days.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.